Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. For guys, I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. We're going to review Odin today, and I want to start by very much expressing that I love everything that happens in this comic book. I think it's brilliant. I'm not like trying to do a very lead thing here. It's just I'm probably spend a bit of time talking about not necessarily the exact things happening in this comic book, but how it actually plays on what's going on in the real world. So to start with, I'm going to say Margaret Bennett and James Tynion IV are two absolutely spectacular writers. They have clearly done the homework on this one. They have understood the assignment and they've absolutely nailed it. It's character-based storytelling. For a first issue, we don't get a huge amount of time on each character, but there's quite an ensemble cast here. We get enough that we are falling into the world that they exhibit, and a few people get a little bit longer in the spotlight, and that's fine. That's all we really need, because it is first issue, and it does do an awful lot with the story. Artwork, Cadanici is absolutely brilliant. I'm not that familiar with their work. I thought it was actually, when I first looked through the artwork, I thought it was the same artist as Something is Killing the Children. It's very similar style, very nice, delicate touch to the line work, brilliant colouring by Belair. She is amazing, as always. And we do get a very, very nice shift, because at a certain point in the story, we go from a far more placid real-world situation where the colouring is a little bit soft. Everything's got like a paleness to it, which is very good for the story we're getting. But then when things go wrong, when things go off the rails, we get a change to the layouts and a change to the colouring. The art suddenly becomes a lot more striking, a lot more bold. Everything is right there, fully in your face, and it is confusing and it's a mess, but it's supposed to be for very good story reasons. And again, literally no complaints. Love everything about it. And you're probably thinking, why has I started my review like that when I've clearly got a whole bunch of time left? What am I going to carry on talking about now? Well, because this is very critical of the black metal community, I know in the past I have had things to said about people who don't really take this kind of thing seriously, who just see people who are into heavy metal as a punchline to a joke. I want to make sure, again, this is not what's happening here. It is a very clever story, and it absolutely eviscerates NSBM. And if you don't know what that is, well done. You haven't had to spend quite so many times researching metal bands as I have, because honestly, sometimes I can get into a sound a band puts out, and there are websites out there which are deliberately set up explicitly so you can check if the heavy metal band you like are fascists. I do not like the fact that fascists exist in heavy metal, but they do, and it'd be stupid to ignore it. I've been into Scandinavian black metal for quite some time, including stuff like Mayhem, and I hate the band, I hate everything about them, but musically, Burzum have put out a couple of decent tracks. It sucks that it's there, but I do not think anyone has done any favours by ignoring it, especially because the people who are into heavy metal, who then go into the Odinist white power kind of thing, really kind of rely on this idea of history and heritage and a mythology which they can seek to claim for themselves to promote what is eventually a fascist, racist ideology. And I have to say, right now, they are all absolutely, unequivocally morons. And I'm not saying this just from a general, I don't like them kind of thing. People who don't know, I've got my degree in history and heritage, and I did my dissertation literally on heavy metal bands who use Viking, Nordic, Scandinavian culture in their music and how they use it and abuse it. I know of what I speak, and I'm going to say these people have not done the reading. Now, sometimes that can be considered like just intellectualism, pushing down on people who haven't had the same education as you. But the amount of these people who claim to have done the research, who claim to have looked into this kind of thing, and then conveniently ignore anything that we could even come close to considering a primary source, I don't think they even know the difference between a primary and secondary source, and then, like I say, forgetting and then manipulating things, cutting things out, cherry picking, being totally unaware of not only their own biases, but also that of who put these histories together. We have had literally centuries of imperialistic, colonialized looks at Nordic and Viking history. The only things we have close to written primary sources are not that. They are written by priests after the fact, and these priests had reason to dislike the Vikings. We can look at primary sources in terms of artifacts, people who do living history to try to recreate it, and we see that the Viking culture was far more complex than I would assume. There's a lot of multiculturalism going on in there. There's a lot of queerness going on, queer representation, feminine representation. A whole bunch of women were respected in positions of power and authority, were in charge of family finances, and were buried like heroes. Also, for all the people who think Vikings are big, burly, macho men, they spent an inordinate amount of time trying to find perfumed oils for their beards. They wore perfume generally, fantastic ornate gold, and spent an awful lot of time looking after their personal appearance, braiding their hair. None of this is ever going to be covered by these Odinist idiots who do not know what they're talking about, and I want to once again congratulate Margaret Bennett and James Tynion IV for understanding this and laying out very simply, very efficiently, not trying to just dump on them for being stupid, but making sure we understand that they are stupid and we're okay to laugh at them for it. I love this book for all the reasons I've mentioned, plus genuinely the art is better than I had time to talk about, the writing is better than I had time to talk about, and the story is leading towards something fantastic. Honestly, no notes, could be my favourite book of the year, and I can't wait to see what else it's going to do. That's it for me for now, though. Until I see you all again, look after yourself, everyone. Stay safe.